Welcome everyone to this Force Friday. Today we're going to share with you a whole bunch of uses of force. We've got some really exciting, unique ideas to share with you to help improve your work and get more energy, get more power and dynamism into your work. So let's say hello to the other guys, right? Hey Swemley, how you doing?
Good. Looking forward to this. Again, people often mistake force for just gesture drawing. This is always funny when I read those comments. So hopefully this gives more insight into the fact that it's a complete drawing method, and you guys will see what we will create with it during this session.
Yeah, I agree. Let's make sure you guys are aware that this can be used across anything, right? From fine art, character design, illustration, storyboarding, comic books, you name it, right? So we're going to just show you some applications today. But yeah, most definitely, I agree. Let's make sure people are aware that this goes across many different disciplines in art. How are you doing, Mrityunjay?
Hey guys, yeah, it's going really good. Also our segment today is like again very unique, just like Swendy said. It's I'm gonna be sharing, some very unique things, so I'm pretty excited for that too as
Yeah,
well.
I am too. I'm really excited for both your segments. So, all right, well, let's get to it. I want us to have as much time as possible to draw for you guys today and share with you what we're doing. So, Mrityunjay, whenever you're ready.
All right, let's see. Hmm. Okay, you're giving me the power already.
Yes.
Okay, so just like I said, it's going to be like very exciting, something we have never done before, So yeah, I mean, let's jump right in. Okay. So what you're looking right here, first of all, like the segment, our segment today is like really about like this topic of force not being a style really, right? And as we go through like progress, and Swenley and Mike are going to be sharing like more of that too as well. But especially mine, and in the previous like couple weeks in the mentorship, this topic has been coming up like really hot, like hot topic. So in the mentorship, and I really enjoy talking about this with the mentees, and just kind of like clarifying it out and like opening up their eyes. And I'm getting like a really positive response in the mentorship about it. It's like, oh my God, I've never thought about force the way you are telling me right now. So it's kind of same thing. So let's jump right in and see like how this connects with what I'm telling you, right now, and like how this is attached to that conversation really. Yeah, so what is this, skewed figures, you just see like a little bit of different layout, as you would usually watch. uh but you see, what I've been experimenting with right now is something like this. All right, here we go. Now, I'm not going to be showing it to you completely right now, but hopefully you can understand where I'm heading to right now. Okay, so yeah, not revealing it right now, but yeah, this is something like a little bit of technical amazement, that you can also do right now. But yeah, a little bit of 360, and this is what I've been teaching, like something I've added like new into mentorship. I've been learning this like Photoshop 3D, which is to your amazement, it's been released, this 3D thing in the Photoshop you see right there, that the option up there, that's been released in 2015 release of Photoshop, which is like CC, I guess, so it's been in for years now, 8 years. When the year when I got into college, and people not been using that much, so I'm exploring that. I'm exploring a little bit of Blender's grease pencil. Some of you guys, like 3D guys, know that Blender has a tool called grease pencil, and you can use it to like draw in 3D space, right? So let's jump right in. So I have a new file here. I'm gonna be revealing what I've been working on, with like a few couple of days. So let's see how that actually works. Okay. So here's a layer, right? So what you would do if you want to get this like 360 thing, and the basics about this is like that, right? So you're inside a sphere, okay? So the sphere is like this, and you're inside of this, okay, and you're painting. Okay, so imagine that you are standing inside a big giant sphere and you're painting on the walls. Okay, and again, like look around. Again, this is how this thing works. So it's very simple. Don't have to like get too technical with it. So you have a simple layer like this. You can go to 3D and you'd see like a lot of options are not available, and it's got a reason. When you actually have this 3D space, then only these options would work. So, but here there's an option. Now, this option can be a little bit different because this is the old version of the Photoshop. But yeah, I mean, this is the 2019 version. I'm pretty sure like it's going to be somewhere around there. So spherical, you go to spherical panorama, and then you go to like the second option, new panorama layer from the selected layer. Okay. So it can be here and there, based on the version that you had. And then the power, see what kind of power that you get out of this, right? So you get this like move tool. Now move tool is V. The shortcut for that is V. And see, like you can move around, right? You see like the sphere a sphere I drew there, it's now getting this kind of onion-like shape, right? Because in sphere, obviously, the things would change to, and that the shape would be changed, right? Whatever you draw. So you can look around and you can look around like all the way, right? All the way back and up and down there, right? So amazing, amazing tool that I've been using, especially when I'm teaching form, right? In the mentorship, it's just so amazing, that you don't have, I mean, you're drawing the grid, but now you can show the students, right? Like I'm be showing the students, like this is how in real life you would look at things, right? So for example, if I just draw a box here, could be like this, and I can like, oh, let's move up there, and this is how the box would look when you look up, right? And you can fill the space with like with boxes or whatever, let's say you're trying to practice. And yeah, so you just press B, it will become like a normal layout, right? And you press V, it would highlight the screen and it would like move around, right?
So
So
V as
such
in
an
Victor, right? The letter V.
sorry, say it again, Mike.
V as in Victor.
Yes, V as in Victor, or V as in very nice.
All right.
So yeah, so we, you can just move around and you can erase, right? So you can like work with all the tools that you just work on as like a normal layer in Photoshop. You can use smudge tool or work with a mixer brush. You can paint around, do whatever that you want, right? Just need to be aware of that this would look a little bit pixelated, but it's actually not, right? So when you render this image out, it's going to be crisp, right? As you would intend to. So that's the basics of this. It's a very simple tool. You can try it out. Just to like export this up and like upload it to the website that supports it. For example, ArtStation and Facebook. There's like a 360 option that you can use to like upload these kind of artworks. So you go to like this spherical map thing in here and just like double click it, and boom, right there. It gives you like a plane, like the image would be stretched out. Okay. And then take a layer underneath and just fill that with a solid color, and you can see there we go. Now we have like a flat image. You would export this out as an image, and there we go. So this is what you have seen while Mike was showing his like screen, that thumbnail right there. That's the image that I'm going to rebuild, right? So let's just kind of like do this. I mean, let's just make it. Wait a second. So I'm going to delete this layer. Let's make some figures, okay? So yeah, let's make some figures in 3D space. Okay, see how it goes. So here now I mean, like, you remember, like, I've been talking about this like forces and style thing as well. Some of the time I've been drawing this just very what do you say, like direct. Okay. So with all the force peeps out there, you would know that we would use the soft touch, we would use the direction forces and like apply force, like glue it all together. Well, this is what I've been like discussing, with the mentees. Okay. And they would say, oh, does my drawing always have to look like this? Although, so this is one of my mentees, what he says, oh, I love the way my drawing looks right now, but it's just a curious question that does my drawing have to look like this always, like all the time, like all my life? I was like, no, it's not like that, because force is an understanding, right? It's an understanding of like of life, right? How do you illustrate it? And it's the awareness, okay? It's just the awareness that you're creating. So so for example, I've been drawing this like direct figure here. Does that mean I'm not using force? Not so much, right? I'm using force, but you just don't see it. It's almost like that kind of thing. Okay. So anyway, so let's just draw this. I've been creating this right now, just randomly. This is my favorite part as well, when I've been exploring this technique in Photoshop, and I just jump right in there and just like do some random doodles around. Okay. Which I'll show you right now. Just let me illustrate this figure here really quickly. My computer is a little bit slower, okay, so just bear with me. Yeah, so here I'm just like working on a normal layer, okay, and you can do the same. You don't have to like convert this space into 3D altogether like from the beginning. You can just like do it around and see if it works, and if you like it, you can convert that to a 3D space. Okay. Let's see. So here's a figure. I'm thinking let me push this. Okay, I'm gonna be turning off this layer. Let me push like a figure in space. Okay, so let's see. So see, we can like have more fun with this like 3D space in here. It's fake, just remember that it's a fake 3D space. Okay, it's kind of like VR, but it's not a VR. Like you cannot like zoom in and move through the images. You can just rotate around. So you're still as a camera into this 3D space that this Photoshop is creating. Okay. So yeah, let me just do this. And you look at this leg right there. That's going into space. This one's coming out towards us. And I can sculpt it a little bit, just like show some form in there. I remember last time I was not in the Force Friday, but Mike is generous enough to like share, the video that I sent, so in there also I've been like drawing this ink like back, I've been like inking that back view of the figure, and that is all directly, just like just from imagination, you're just like imagining it out and drawing it out, and that's fun actually. It also removes the fear also, by the way, just like if you get fear of drawing, you can just like remove it by like doing more traditional stuff there. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, there goes the big toe, right? The flat feet on the outside. From the inside, it's a little tunnel-like shape. This is a result of, I don't know. At this point, I'm not really in parallel with Mike. Mike might have drawn like million figures by this point. I'm at few thousand right now, so but still, it's just that little
maybe like
experience.
200,000 or so. That's pretty good.
200,000? No, I don't think so. I think it's like a million. Million figure drawings. I mean, if
True mastery is 1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you put your drawings like one by one, stack by stack, like every drawing, it would reach to the moon.
Just buy really thick paper, everyone. That's all.
Yeah.
Matunji's got the moon on the mind with India's successful landing, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's such a proud thing for us.
Yeah, it's awesome. Congratulations.
Yep. Congratulations to all the scientists, I've been working so hard for it.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna be on this forearm, into space right there, really, really quickly. Yeah.
On a whole side note, I want everyone to be aware that Matunji is just making this up, right? And that in itself comes from years of practice of just drawing force, right? Here's a dynamic figure from imagination that's fluidly connected because of understanding how to draw with the approach that we teach.
Yeah, just it's fun, you know. That's what the thing is. I'll stop drawing if it's stop being fun, you know. But that's fun, and that's the driver to all of this. All right, so here we go. So let's convert this into like a little 3D thing. Okay, so again, go to 3D, convert it to that. Now you see all of a sudden, if you do that, that's going to be big, right? That's going to be like giant. So what you can do for this one, it's something called FOV, field of view, right? It's measured in like millimeters. So there's this thing, right? You can tap on this. So when you go to layers, okay, you got this 3D panel here as well. If you don't see that, you can just go to window and 3D, right? You can do that as well. You can, you see this little cube there, you can just double tap on it. It would give you this current view, and in the properties would change, right? Because you switch to the properties. And you will find something called FOV, right? So you can, I usually keep it on like something around like 5 or 4, right? So let's do 4 right now. So all of a sudden you see like, oh, we are now out a little bit zoomed out, right? But it's still going to be giant, right? Now you see what's happening.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, you know, I know like there's some like things here and there, but all of a sudden you get this like figure, okay? And Mike's been sharing this idea a lot about like the figure being giant. You know, one of the things that I mean, I remember all the things, you know, that when I was student, I was you know, learning in the course. But one thing that's really stuck to me with is like he's saying, Mike is saying like, oh, imagine the figure being this giant, you know, like this 100 feet tall, and you'd go by the plane. And I remember like I usually illustrate a plane around, you know, around the figure when I was like learning sculpting. So that helped me. Okay. And now this thing, you know, using technology, you can actually just, you know, it's right in front of you. You don't have to imagine it, you know, if you don't know how does it look like, right? So this is something I just discovered, right? Now, if you're just like doing a drawing and then you're converting that, it's going to be like this like spherical, like panoramic, like giant model. Now, you can fix things around. And for example, here's like right there. So as soon as you press like some other key, like for example, the eraser or the brush, it just becomes normal, right? So yeah, let's fix that leg right there.
I think what's cool about this is, to your point, it allows us to see this the way that we are trying to teach you, right? That there's it looks like, it feels like we are closer to the model because of the sphericalness of the 3D, right? So it feels like you're really close, and you have to look up at the model's head and look down at the model's feet, and it gives you a visual, right? So, but this is the thing we're talking about with trying to recognize that there is actual 3D space, you know, when you are looking at the model. And this helps you see that. This cheat kind of helps you see that and feel what that experience is like. So hopefully when you are drawing models from photographs, which usually are not that intense, right? They're not that close. The lens is not that round. You do get a sense of this is what we're talking about. You know, like look at how we're looking up at the model, right? When I was teaching in classrooms, I would have the students get up from their seats and sit on the floor, you know, right next to the model, right? So you'd get this feel. You'd get this feel of looking up at, you know, like a skyscraper, right? And it's hard to get nowadays because we're all drawing digitally and we're all drawing for photographs online, and no one's photographs really do this, right? It's very rare that you find it. There's some out there, but it's pretty rare. But imagine having the power to do this. Now, Mrityunjay did, you know, a drawing that didn't even push into this idea that much. Imagine if you drew the figure in the flat layer with a sense of I'm going to look up and I'm going to look down, and then you brought it into the sphericalness. It would like fit even better, right? It would push it even further, right? He had a drawing with some space in it, but like for instance, this leg, Mrityunjay, in your drawing was coming out towards us, but here in 3D, now it feels like, yeah, what you're doing right now feels like, oh, shoot, wait a minute, I should sculpt this downward, right? And then sculpt everything else going upward, right?
Right.
But if you know that ahead of time, when you're in the layer, before you go to this, you could already play with that, you know, at least make sure that the center of the layer basically is like your horizon line, and you can push things going up in space or down in space. Or you could say, you know what, the heck with the layer, I'm not going to draw it in a flat layer at all. I'm going to just draw in here because it's already like insinuating space to you, like Mrityunjay is doing right now, right? And then you could really feel the warpedness of the fisheye lens, making it seem like you know, you're dramatically looking up and down at the figure, you know. So it's cool, you know. And what's interesting is our eyes, believe it or not, are closer to this level of drama. You're just so accustomed to it, you're not aware of how dramatic space is. You know, if you're walking around, we're all fish-eyed, right? We all have round eyeballs. And you don't usually have your face right up against anything. So that space flattens things out, right? But if you were close in on something, it does warp it out like this, right? Your eye actually does, the curvature of your eye does this. So this is just like being really intimate with everything and really close. And because of that, we're getting this curvature, right? And you can draw into that curvature, which is pretty cool, you know. Can you maybe, Mrityunjay, draw like you did for me earlier today, just a stack of boxes, for instance, right? Like something really simple even to show like, hey, I'm looking up at the box, I'm looking down the boxes, right?
Yeah, so I mean, we can go in there and say, oh, there's a box.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can continue this streak. You can say, oh, yes, now the perspective. So now see, I'm running out of space, but you can just move around. No problem. And then you can do this. So now see how tight the perspective is. Now we're looking like really at the skyscraper up there. Maybe an antenna. Down up there. Yeah, and you can go down. For example, let's say this model right here. You know, that model is right on this box here.
Yeah, this is pretty amazing. It gives you a sense of you're drawing in three-dimensional space. You're not really, but it feels like it. And I think that's really powerful, like really, really powerful.
Yeah, it brings some sort of like physicality and, you know, physicality to your drawings. You know, now you really have to look up or down or left or right in order to complete or finish your environment. And you get a sense of like how much drama you're losing when you're just drawing from photographs like normally all the time.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, hopefully going in here will allow you to look at the photographs a little differently, you know, and you kind of have to use your mind's eye, you know, of skill, to like bring this thinking to something that's a two-dimensional photograph of the model, you know.
Yeah. I remember I mean, this is the technique I would not use for the figure drawing. Like a few years back, I would just use this for like concept art. So my art director was really happy about this, you know, because you know, I can plan the entire environment, you know, standing at a place instead of just like these like separate keyframes, you know. So these drawings, you know, would really connect those environments as well. So not just for figure drawing, you can use this for like layouts. And if you're like a concept artist, or if you want to become a concept artist, just, you know, that would bring like this is 2D, right? You're drawing and you're painting, but you can see that in 3D, right? So it's an amazing bridge. Even if you are scared of 3D, which I used to be, right, in the beginning. Now I'm not. Right. Just say, for example, like here's like maybe a house, right? And here's like the street to like go around, and here's like the road, and you know, there may be a car right here, which is standing. So something like that, right? And again, this is like just the boxes and everything. All right. So now I see the application of it.
Wow. Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah. And you can go around, you can draw whatever the heck you want, and that's like all in 3D. And you can look around as well. Right now I haven't drawn anything, but yeah, you can look around, you can just draw like complete scenes. Let's see, what
You know, this means, you know, Mrityunjay, I'll bet a way that could make this really work for somebody is if you did a flat grid on the layer, you know, just started with a flat grid of boxes and then turned it 3D, at least you would see the grid of the sphere, right? And then get a sense of like its three-dimensionality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have it, you know. but that's for mentees. uh,
Yeah,
but I
but that's
have
cool.
grid.
I could see it working like that, you know. So, you know, the caveat I want to share with everyone here is I think it's amazing, you know, to be able to see into this three-dimensional space. But, you know, Mrityunjay's been drawing a while. So all of a sudden it's like he can make the camera work with the perspective, right? And make this all feel like it works together. It'll take some time for you to get an understanding of perspective and draftsmanship well enough to do this, right? To, you know, look at how all of a sudden we're looking up, right? And we could see everyone's feet. And we have this guy controlling the skull baby and these other remote control creatures, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
so awesome though, right? Like it's
Yeah,
pretty
amazing.
damn, yeah, it's amazing, right? Yeah, it's pretty
Like,
invigorating.
right. You just like I mean, look at this, right? I've been thinking about this while drawing it. Now this is just a
Right,
blank grid, but I've been thinking about this with this baby. I'm thinking like that, like
right.
this. And yeah, you can do this too, by the way. It's just a tip, by the way. If this painting on the sphere, if your computer is not powerful enough, just like mine, so it would like lag a little bit. Okay, so what you can do is you can take the normal layer, and it would froze that frame right there, and you can draw on top of this whatever you want or paint, and just press Control E, right? Control E is the shortcut for like merging. So you see like
So
how
he is an
the
elephant, right?
yes, E for
Hmm.
elephant.
Hmm.
And that layer is going to merge with that sphere, right? So that's also a cool thing to do, right? So you can take like a normal layer, you can just do whatever that you want and press Control E for elephant again, and then it would merge up with the sphere. So you can just again move around. Yeah. So yeah, really, really fun way to like story tell. It's a different thing, it's just go and have fun with it. Uh do whatever you want, have some fun with the perspective, fake perspective.
Yeah, it's awesome. Can you
And
show them one more time where it is? It was in 3D in the menu.
yeah, so have a normal layer, go to 3D and this spherical panorama, and then new panorama layer from selected layer or layers. Okay, so
Hmm. Okay, cool. Thank you.
like multiple layers selected. Let's say, for example, you have grid, and then you want like drawing on top, you can select multiple layers and also like turn that into 3D. So every layer is now a 3D grid.
So you can have 3 layers and highlight all of them and then go to that 3D spherical. It'll bring them all in at one time.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really
Wow.
powerful.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's very powerful. Super cool.
So yeah. All right. Now it's time for Swansea, I guess. So I hope you enjoyed the
Yes.
little roaming around into the space, and let's allow Swansea to show some magic with this character designs. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome. Let's see if we see more artists testing this out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna go play with it. That's for sure.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
all of a sudden we won't see Mike next Friday. It's crazy.
Exactly. That's right. I'll be playing with spheroids.
All right, guys. So yeah, thank you, Mrityunjay. That was amazing. So let's delve into some character design. So I just want to walk with you guys through this process of me creating this character. This was inspired by Cheetah from DC Comics, if you know the character. And this was drawn completely from imagination, by the way. So I want to delve deeper with you guys how to make the transition, because at this point it has become like second nature. But when I encounter new students that are trying to make the leap to draw from imagination, I realize that I shouldn't take it for granted. It takes some skill and some practice to arrive here. So let's start with step number 1. And actually, it's not really drawing. It's first of all having an idea. Now, like we teach, your drawings are only as good as your ideas. So the first step for drawing from imagination is you need an idea of what you want to draw. So in this case, I wanted this character jumping in midair. As simple as that. And as I draw, I figure out the specifics. So out of that idea came this pose. Again, fairly simple pose. In terms of force drawing, of course, we teach the templates, like the natural rhythms of the body. And those allow you to draw a functional pose, a functional figure or character really, really fast. Like this stage used to be a nightmare for me in the past. I had to redo the pose over and over again. Things weren't working. And now with force and understanding how the body works, it just takes me like, this could be like easily like maybe 3 minutes, or 5 minutes if I want to add some detail. But it's really easy to add the gesture. So what do we have here in terms of the forces and rhythms? Like, first of all, if you look at the pose as a whole, we could think of this as an abstract shape. And the shape has what we call a leading edge, which means this is actually the edge that is leading the action. So the character is going this way. Also, we have this arrow. Also, this is direction. As a result of that, like the arms are dragging behind, the tail is dragging behind. So through the pose, I was aware of how fast I wanted this character to be moving in 3D space. And based on that, I drew that tail. Now, like if I let the tail be more relaxed, let's say, the character can easily appear to be moving slower. Like the more I stretch that tail, like an animation is called like a secondary action or overlapping action, if I remember correctly. So the more I stretch this, the faster the character appears to be moving. I could do the same with the arms as well. That means there is more like dragging force as the character is going that way. So I was aware of the direction of the pose as a whole. And then inside of that, if we think in terms of like the forces and rhythms, she's bending, of course. So we have what we call a C torso. This is the back is stretching as she's bending. And then we have compression at this side. It's almost like a bean or like a bending flour sack. Now you can see this stretching leg is working out and out. And from here, we go into the heel and out to the foot. This leg is essentially like one bending arrow into that foot. And then notice how I connected the arms. The arms work as a unit. Now, so this is one path, essentially. And this goes into this arm. And this shoots out at the hands. Same here. Now, even in the tail, there is rhythm. Now, this curve, which connects to that curve. Now, so these arrows, as simple as they are, is what makes someone look at your drawing and say, "Whoa, your drawing is really fluid." It's because of the connectivity that happens at a simple level. Now, last but not least, force is coming from the back, and it's kind of like hitting the chin. So this is the abstraction that I'm thinking about. So yeah, and then in combination with the forces, of course, we have force shape, which, as you probably know, means for each directional force curve, we have a straight on the other side. So we have this like this lemon slice kind of shape. And I use wrapping, which is basically like elliptical cross sections for form. And I was very efficient with it. Like normally I like to wrap at the joints, so the knee joint, the ankle joints. The front of the knee in this case is like a cylinder coming out right at us. At the tail, at the wrist. Now you can see it here, the arms as well. So again, since this for myself, I just keep it like fast and efficient. You know, I put just what I need in order for the pose to be clear in my mind. And I also did a very quick sketch of the head. So you can see the box, it's like a rounded box. You know, we have a front plane, we have a side plane, here we have a corner, which we call the turning edge. Now here's another turning edge. So again, fast and efficient. This comes from practicing all the basics, you know, force, form, and shape. Now, then you're able to combine them, and it allows you to draw a functional pose, like I said at the beginning, fairly fast. So that is step number one. And then we went to the second step. So I just took this sketch, and Clip Studio Paint has something called layer color. Let's see, I think I can apply it to the folder. So that's this square, like right here in the corner, and it changes the color. And you can even go here and you can change it to another color. So I've been using this a lot, especially when doing character design. And I can easily toggle it off, and it goes back to the color that I'm drawing with. So I used the layer color, I changed the pose to light blue, and then I did a second pass. And now, of course, I already had the pose and like the shapes and the structure working here. So here I could start adding a bit more detail. You know, so still keeping it pretty loose and fluid. Now, just bringing enough information in there for me to be able to understand what's going on, especially since I plan to work towards a cleanup. So here's where like the smaller shapes are, of course, the anatomy. No, like you can see the shape of the deltoid in here. You can see the form, like this is the top plane of the deltoid. You can see the shoulder blade is there. You can see the shoulder blade here as well, and the deltoids. Now, and the arm, I mean, I didn't want it to be super muscular, so I'm just giving a hint of the contracting bicep, like she's bending her arm, so this is going to be slightly contracted. Same here, just a little hint of the anatomy. It's one thing to learn the anatomy diagrams, but then you have to be able to apply it to your drawings. You know, not every figure is a walking anatomy diagram, so you need to also practice how much you need to show. So that was step number 2. And see, I went in there and I started to work on the expression. Of course, the face of a character is super important. So I started to like loosely shape out the features and the expression. And the important thing here is keeping in mind the form. You know, so notice that the eyes are mostly on that front plane, you know, a little bit on the side plane, because when you look at the side, from the side at the face, you can see like the side plane of the eye, you know, so it's, let's zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it. So the eye itself has a turning edge, meaning this is the front plane and this is the side plane. So from a side view, you would be looking like at that side plane of the eye. Now, it's very easy to go in there and just make the eye a flat shape with no corner. You know, and that immediately flattens out the eye. It makes it look like a sticker pasted on the front plane of the head instead of a rounded, you know, spherical form. So again, all this is from imagination. And when I did this, I did some studies of a cheetah, you know, previously. So I had an idea in my mind of how things were going to look. If this was client work, I would have used reference. Now, probably would have inspired like even more interesting ideas. But this was just for me for fun, you know. So I just went with what I had in my memory at that point. So after that, I decided to, speaking about style, this was pretty fluid, and I thought, well, let me try doing this character in a more angular style. And I can imagine someone asking, well, what's the difference? Well, if you look at this sketch, for example, it's much more rounder. I'm using like very strong curves, clear arcs. And for this one, I have some arcs, but overall, the curves are getting almost straight. If you look at this line, for example, it's a very subtle curve. It's almost a straight line. And this is straight for sure. I'm even using like some concaves here. Like notice this is going in, then it's coming back out. While here, this is just round. That's an arc. That's one thing. And the other thing is corners. Now here, everything is nice and rounded for the most part. And here you have these pointy, sharp corners. Now, same here. Like notice this is one smooth curve. But here I have this like sharp points in the shape. So I just used the same sketch that I showed you guys at the beginning. So this like basic gesture drawing, and I used that to I just did another pass and made the shapes more angular, and sharp and pointy, which I think fits the character. Like either one could go, but I think I wanted something more aggressive looking, and the more angular and pointier shapes definitely contribute to that feel. So after this came, of course, the cleanup. Also, and I think I used the G pen, which is a default brush that comes with Clip Studio Paint. And I did a cleanup. And again, notice the difference in the styles. So this is slightly more fluid and round. Like you can see it in the tail, for example. Like here, I have one smooth curve. And here, I'm breaking it down into much straighter lines. Again, it's not a perfect straight, but almost, it's almost a straight. We have a sharp corner there. And then we have this straight. Now you can see it here as well. So with the styles, I'm paying attention to the silhouettes, meaning that I want to make sure that at first glance, you can see the difference between the styles. Now you should see that, hey, these shapes are much sharper and angular and pointy, and these ones are rounder and softer. And then for the cleanup itself, you want to draw with very clear, what we call A to B strokes. So basically, it's almost like the connect the dots system. Meaning each stroke has a start, and I know where I'm going. So I'm going from A to B, from A to B, from A to B, and with each stroke I have to decide how straight or how curved it's going to be. So many design decisions actually that you're making while cleaning up. It's a bit different than just drawing. It's more thoughtful. You guys have any questions, by the way? You guys are the crowd.
No, I think it's awesome. I love that you showed the difference between the curved and the angular, and also the decision making behind the character, right? So it's like art directing towards the character's personality, which I think is a really interesting idea, and that's something that we see in film and probably not as much in comics. I think typically comic book artists kind of draw on their style, but in animation, you would see that, you would definitely see more, so angular characters and rounded characters and so on,
Yeah, I think it's a good challenge for you guys if you're watching this to go and like pay more attention to your favorites, like 2D films or cartoons, and see if you can spot whether they're using an angular or a more rounded and fluid style. You know, like when I think of this, I think of Disney Atlantis, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, very angular designs in that one. You know, especially the main character, his face, he had some very like angular and like pointy shapes that were used in there. You know, and when I think like Little Mermaids, I think is more in the fluid style, and it doesn't mean that in the fluid style you don't have any sharp corners, but they're the minimum. You know, likewise, doesn't mean that here nothing is round. It could be, I could take it to those extremes, but it's about what's dominance in the design.
Yeah, I just, last night I watched a film called Sea Beast, which ironically is directed by a guy that was in the Disney internship with me when I was 23, Chris Williams. And now he's directing films. I think he did Big Hero 6, and this film was for Netflix. First of all, I highly recommend everyone watch it. It was really good. Story was really good. But on a side note, the character designs, I think, were Shayun Kim and Tony Fusilli. And Tony used to work at Pixar. And the character designs are great. Like there's like a main, it's all about pirates, like fighting with sea monsters, basically. And it's bigger and deeper than that, but that's the surface level premise. And yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see the look and feel of the characters, and the different shapes, and again, angular and round, more square and boxy versus triangular or elliptical, and watching out for that as you're watching the film. So yeah, check it out. I really enjoyed it. I have to say, it was really good.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Again, like once you get into design, you start paying attention to the subtleties. Like just today I was working on a character design for a client, and I went in, I was drawing the face of this character, and I went in and I was like, I think this line of the cheek is a bit too concave. What happens if I make it straight, for example? It gives a different feel to the character. And then what happens if I make the curve stronger? What happens if this comes out, for example? Again, different look. What happens if this is a sharp corner? What happens if this is nice and smooth? So you start paying attention to like the little nuances of the character, and it makes a big difference. I think you have to experience it to see like how powerful those design decisions are.
Especially in the face.
Yeah.
In the face, you really see it. Those of you that have taken any mentorship or premium from us will know when you start doing head drawings, 3 degrees of a line or a rotation, and it's a totally different face.
Yeah, it's very unforgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So then, of course, came the flat colors, once the cleanup was done. So let's go to this one, because the difference between this and this is I added like a lighter tone, like at the belly and the front of the arms. But you can notice how few colors I used here. It's yellow for the most part, and this is my base color. And then I have like the lighter yellow for the face, and a bit lighter for the mouths and the eyes. As you can see with the values as well, it's pretty close. So beginner's mistake is to do too much, and you can do a lot with little when it comes to color and value. And the only contrasting color is right in the eye, so immediately I create a focal point there. Because all of a sudden we're introducing a new color, so it immediately draws your eye to the face, and that was my intention.
I'd add that it's the complement too of the whole costume.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's a complementary color. And this orange is there in the tear ducts, very small, but again, it helps draw the eye. to the face of the character. And then after this, I did some shadow shapes. Same as with a character, you want to design the shadow shapes. You know, you don't want to go in here and make the shapes perfectly parallel to the contour of the character. So you want to design the shapes to create appealing shapes for the shadows, you know. So same shape rules as for the silhouettes also apply for the shadow shape. And then I was like, let me try, because this is a warm shadow, now it's orange, which is considered a warmer color. So let me try a color that's a bit cooler in its temperature. You know, and it's also a bit more complementary to the yellow in a sense. So I thought this one looked good. And then at last I added a shape in the background. So notice that the shape is basically the shape that I drew at the very beginning. Now, so this shape has, first of all, it has a curve at the top, straight at the bottom, and it has a clear direction. You know, so this further emphasizes the action of the character. And yeah, that's basically it. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Again, to show that force is not just gesture. You know, you can take it to more finished work and even in different styles if you want to do that. All right, I'm giving it over to Mike.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Swanley. That was awesome. So
Yeah.
what have we looked at today, right? Yeah. We've looked at 3D. We looked at character design. If you like what you're learning here from us and you want to learn from us more specifically, please visit drawingforce.com. All three of us are mentors where you can learn from us one-on-one, right? Most of the sessions are once a week. They're about an hour long. And that is the fastest and most efficient way, I think, to learn, quite honestly, that I've seen in all my years of teaching, which has been about 30 now. So yeah, come check us out. Let's see here. Let's get over to my Photoshop. All right, it's drawingforce.com as a reminder. If you like what we're doing, please hit the subscribe and the bell to get notifications. So what I thought I would share with you today is some conversations I've been having during the week in mentorship. And one of them keeps coming over to sculpting, which I'd have to say, I think is one of the more challenging parts of our particular curriculum. You know, there's always like lots of questions about where do I go with the line, how to control the lines, you know, it's mostly direction, right? And there's this constant balance of power between force and form, you know, and knowing how to play with that power. So this is a drawing I did this past week in a mentorship session. And trying to hold on to flow and construction at the same time. So what I brought in today was here's a video of a drawing that I did during the week, just on my own, just kind of messing around. And you can see the soft touch approach here. So Mrityunjay at the very beginning talked about how this is how we normally teach. And you saw Mrityunjay go then past this to where you're drawing more immediately, right? It's like just doing it without all the underneath. So like drawing without a net, which is fine because the good news is you're not going to hurt yourself. You can always go and try drawing without a net. But usually we have you draw with the net first, right? Meaning you want something to fall back on, and that fall back is all of that skating, right? And you can see here pretty quickly I'm going into detail, right? There's a big jump I'm making between the soft touch and the actual drawing, the final drawing, right? So this is a guy holding onto a pole, right? And his feet are clamped around it. There's the pole. And then, you know, and understanding all the forces that it takes to take this on, right? The amount of effort that he's putting into this to get to this place, I think is pretty amazing, right? It's not easy. If any of you tried this, to clamp your feet down like this and hold your body up like that, it takes a lot of strength, a lot of energy. So I thought what I would do here today is I thought what I would do is draw on top of this and do some sculpting, right? Just to give you a little flavor of what that might look and feel like, right? So let's just make this layer a little wider on the timeline. So not only does Photoshop have 3D, but as you know, you can animate in Photoshop, which is kind of cool. I'm not going to animate on it today, but I did bring in a movie file, right, into Photoshop, which is pretty awesome all in itself. And I thought we would try sculpting on this, right? Let's go to black. I'm going to zoom in. I want to try to sculpt as much as I can with direction, right? As much as I can. But there may be times, I don't have the answer to this yet. There might be times where form is going to beat that out. And it's okay. It's okay, because if the silhouette is strong enough, right? If I have something like this, right, and it's round, and I can't really sculpt much force into it, it's fine, because the shape will hold up the idea of the force. You see, this flat two-dimensional shape will hold it up. So it's okay if I go in here and I do this. See, if I sculpt for round, it's okay, because that edge, like I said, is going to do its job, right? But if I can get it to go in the direction, right? If I can get this to work for me, and this is the direction of force, how do I know that? It's almost like taking the gray mass itself and saying that is this blob of force, right? How do I move that blob, that shape, right? That blob's been defined in a shape, and it has a direction. I want to try to keep that direction going. Another way of thinking about it is, you know, you could take this line and this line and just say, what is the average between those two, right? I could draw a line through the center, and it's like, that is the direction of force that this shape is conveying, right? It's going that way. And it's always going to squeeze from big to small, right? It wants to get squeezed out towards the smaller end. Like, I wouldn't say, if I looked at this shape, I wouldn't look at a shape like this and say, oh, force is going that way. To me, it's always like trying to make its way out the narrow end, okay? So with that, let's just try some sculpting, right? So this shoulder area is pretty darn sweet, right? Let's see here, brush. I'm going to put on my caps lock, so you're just going to see a crosshair, but that brush is in there. You can see the size of the brush. And I like all this anatomy that's going on here. This is his deltoid, right? So this whole shape right here is his deltoid, right? So I'm going to go into this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because it's getting pixely and I don't want that. All right, I'm going to pull here. All right, so I want to pull off of this. You can see here that I did that. I remember in the photograph, it was very clear that it was pulling off of that right there. Why am I doing that? Well, because I'm pulling from the edge of the scapula, which is right there, to the humerus bone. The muscle is stretching this way. So in this case, works really well, works in my favor, right? Like, I could get all this force out of that and pull it, right? And lots of times, not always, I wish I could say this as an always, but it's not an always. Most of the time, this stretching idea will be a muscle pulling from its origin and insertion points. Many times, this could end up being skin pulling from one location to another. In clothing, it'll do this very often as well. You'll actually pull from one point to another, right? So like in here, all of this is pulling. Now, he's also round, right? Like this. I'm aware of his roundness in here, right? He's like this and like this and like this, you see? So that's going on in the back of my head. I'm very aware of that. So this helps. I'm not hurting that, you see? If I were to extend these lines, he's going around. And when I draw anatomy too, like his trapezius is sitting in here, right? And one thing some people might do is try to curve it this way. I usually try to tweak it towards the bigger direction of the map of the back, right? So the map of the back is like this. So if I really see that it looks like it's like this, I'll always try to get an S out of it. I'll get that curve and then sweep around like that. You see that S I changed right there, direction? That'll help it stick better to the back. Or if I go even further, I would get rid of the S and I would just say, well, I'm gonna curve it this way, right? To push it like that, right? So here I am, I'm sculpting, I'm keeping in mind force, but I'm trying to keep form in the back of my mind, the bigger form, right? The bigger form. It's okay to cross over a little bit, by the way, but try not to do this, like the total pure crosshatch. To me, that's a traffic jam of force, right? You're like looking at New York City, yeah, with all the traffic signals not working, right? So here I have this arm's pulling this way, you know, this is pulling this way. If I go into the forearm, I can pull, but let's say I want roundness here, you know, it's okay if I want to try to get some of the roundness of this arm, right? Maybe I want this in there as well. I'm not trying to get too illustrative here versus just trying to show you moments of how I might handle this, right? I like this tricep pulling down. And I think the shape is strong enough to hold on to what I want it to be doing right now. I usually like pulling lines off of the elbow like this, like feeling the stretch of the tricep down there and the tendon, right? Get this to cross over a little bit more, and then we would have all the other anatomy in here, right? So all these muscles here, like the extensor digitorum, for instance, I might want roundness out of that, right? So sometimes I'll combine it. I'll pull like this and give myself rotation. Sometimes what I'll do is if I have something that's round, I'll go for the roundness and I'll taper my way in to the direction of motion, right? So that sometimes will happen also. I want to try to get some thickness out of this lat. So maybe down here underneath this armpit, right? I'm going to come around. This is a perfect example. I'll do this here, right? So I'm going to come in round and then pull my way in, right? Into the pull of it, right? I'd probably, if it was me here, I would probably add a lot of drop shadow in here like this to really separate that arm out from it. And you can even ink your way out of those drop shadows like this and get some of that form coming out. All right. You'll notice here I already started sculpting because I was thinking about how the roundness of his back is going away, right? It's like that. And guess what? It's working with force, right? Because the force of the back is going this way. So I can actually ink my way into that, all right? Right, like so. Here on his leg, I'd probably go for roundness at the beginning. I want that form really popping out. I want to feel all this roundness. You can see the flow of it's coming from the bottom and then hitting here to the top like this. I might want to emphasize sort of the box of the knee is sitting in there, you see? So I'll usually grab here the ends of the femur, and then I know the tibia is like right about there, you see? So you see how that kind of sets up that form. So here, a lot of interior line and some anatomy knowledge is helping me create easier to read construction, right? All right, come over the knee here. This is pull down. Maybe I want the other edge of the kneecap or patella. So I could spend, you know, the next 2 hours on this if I wanted to, right? And just really start carving and carving away. I just want you to see the major ideas and, you know, how much that really starts adding to this drawing, right? Doesn't mean you have to be someone who loves sculpting. No, not at all. And do you want to go into this? We were talking about style before, this look of your work. No, not necessarily. We have everyone go through this, not for a style choice, but for an educational choice, right? That we want you to understand that everything in the body's got direction, right? We're drawing with this force line, right? So this line, to me, in my mind, this line equals direction, right? Where are things going, right? Where are things going? So here I'm pulling from one end of the deltoid all the way over to the other, right? That's the going, right? Constantly directing traffic. Oh God. How about you and you guys? Any questions or thoughts? Anything you want to add?
I mean, sculpting is just, why I love sculpting is just because it fills the whole figure with motion and energy.
Yeah.
And each line, that we draw as a sculpting line, that is a direction of force, right? That's the reason why.
Yeah.
whole thing just, you know, get fills with energy. So yeah, that is why I love it.
Yeah, it's hard to deny after you start filling it all in that you're going to have a dead drawing, you know? I mean, look at how much flow is happening. This is kind of interesting right here. I'm going this way and then here I'm going this way, right? So I have to kind of figure my way through this. Imagine driving through this, right? Like the road's going this way, it's going this way. So I have to kind of slide out into this, right? Like imagine every line on this is a moment of my car sliding its way down into that, right? So I could go like that if I wanted to. And that's not the only answer, by the way. It's just one answer I'm giving you, right? But you could see that's kind of cool. The idea of here's a little car and I'm like letting it slide out into the next part of the roadway, right? And make its way down. So really fun travel. All right, guys. So that's everything we have for today. Covered a lot of different subjects on force. God, we've gone from 3D to character design to sculpting, right? And imagine sculpting in that 3D space that Mrityunjay showed us at the beginning. How cool would that be? So maybe we'll do that in a future session. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's session, and we will see you next Friday with more. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
See ya.